Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org. Idaho lost more than 2,000 farms over a 5-year period. Idaho Matters wants to know how that's impacting farmers, cities, and counties. Listen to our series on farming called Land and Legacy. Episodes available on Monday afternoons through November 17th in the Idaho Matters podcast feed. More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudet. You're listening to Idaho Matters. Over a 5-year period, there was a 7% decline in the number of farms in America. So what does that mean for Idaho? Well, that meant that 2,000 farms disappeared in that same amount of time. And we're looking at what this means for our cities and our counties, as well as our Idaho farmers and the agricultural industry with our new series, Land and Legacy, Farming in Idaho. And this week, we're meeting urban and younger farmers to find out how they survive on smaller acres closer to urban areas. So with us today are Justin Moore with Fiddler's Green Farm, Ben Mast with Broken Spoke Farm, and Ben Brock with Global Gardens. I want to welcome all three of you to the program today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gemma.
Justin, let me start the conversation with you. Can you talk to us about Fiddler's Green? Where is it? What do you farm?
So Fiddler's Green Farm is a 5-acre certified organic vegetable and flower farm. We're located in the Dry Creek region, which is, a little bit outside of Boise, pretty much 9 miles from downtown Boise.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, we specialize in greens and tomatoes, and we're at the Boise Farmers Market and co-op and restaurants as well. So.
And then Ben, I'm going to call you guys by your last names. It's like we're back in school. So Ben M, what is Broken Spoke and what do you farm?
So Broken Spoke is a small farm. Sometimes we call ourselves a market garden. We grow quite a variety of vegetables and flowers, greens, kale, chard, tomatoes, peppers, and like I said, flowers. We grew a lot of winter squash and onions as well for storage crops. And
where are you located exactly?
We're located on Hill Road between Collister and Pierce Park, right here in Boise.
Okay, and then Ben B, can you describe Global Gardens for us? What do you do? Where are you located, and what do you grow?
Yeah, Global Gardens is a local nonprofit farming organization. We've been around for about 20 years. We have farm sites around the Boise area, as far south as, south of Overland, all the way to the Boise foothills, all the way out to Eagle Road, and then we've got a site kind of out Boise Avenue. But all those sites we've got 7 farm sites, and they're anywhere from a fifth of an acre up to about 5 acres. And we're growing primarily for farmers markets and restaurants, like Ben from Broken Spoke mentioned, just kind of a market garden operation. And we focus on supporting refugee farmers or farmers from refugee backgrounds that have resettled in the Boise area. And we just kind of help them put their agricultural experience to use to support their families and provide food for the community.
So this is a question for all three of you, and we can kind of just go down the line and answer it, because from what all three of you have described, I mean, you are definitely urban farmers, but I'm curious about what that looks like for your operations. So Ben M, let me start with you. I mean, you said you're off of Hill Road, I mean, right near Collister. You are in the city limits of Boise. How does that impact what you do?
Right. So we're right there in the mix. And a couple months into this season, we decided to start our own little farm stand on the corner of Hill Road and Castle. And we decided to do that because we're growing food right there. And we figured if we can offer veggies to our actual neighbors, it would be an excellent way to meet the community, meet the people that live right where we grow the food. And people are very interested in getting as local as they can get with their food. So we saw that opportunity and we took it, and it's working out pretty well.
And Justin, what about your farming operation? How does being in such an urban area impact what you do?
Well, for us, it's really nice for us, especially for the community. We can get food basically to the co-op and restaurants and to the market. It's probably the freshest food that you can get. I mean, a lot of times some of the food is getting to like the co-op or a restaurant within like an hour of harvest.
Mm.
So that's pretty unique, and I think really for like the freshness and just the quality of the food is just beyond anything you could really get at the grocery store. So that's been really cool. It's also nice too because we're close, we can quickly, if pivot, or say a chef or like a co-op needs another case of radishes, we can do that really fast for them. So it's kind of cool.
And Ben B, same question for you when it comes to that urban environment. I know you have different locations around the Treasure Valley, but how does that impact what you do being in these more urban environments?
Yeah, we were talking about this right before we came on air. We, as urban producers, have to deal with a lot more neighbors that may or may not be familiar with kind of the impact of farming on a community. We've got it's a farming operation, so we've got machinery. We're getting a tiller out. Sometimes neighbors don't like the sound or the smell of a farm, and so we just need to kind of go out of our way to make sure that we're good neighbors. There's also in our particular situation where we've got a lot of smaller pieces that we need to kind of put together in order to get enough farmable acreage. It means that we are dealing with lots of different types of land and lots of different infrastructure, lots of different access to water. Um, and I mean, I'm sure we'll get to it at some point, but the thing that we're up against the most is always wondering when a particular piece of land is going to get developed.
Mm.
So that's a challenge, but I think I'd also just echo the things that Justin and Ben said about the benefits we live with our customers essentially. We're right in town, and we can all afford, we can live in town with our families and not have to be, kind of out in. It's easy to finish up a farm day and then take the kids to soccer practice in a way that might not be possible
Yeah.
if we were kind of farming in a more rural setting.
So, Ben B, can we talk a little bit more about what you said in regards to land? Because how tough is it, A, to find land to use for urban farming? And then B, I mean, when does it go up for sale, right? And watching that, and are you concerned about even having land to farm?
Yeah, absolutely. We're fortunate. We're a little bit of a different beast in that the land that we are farming on is all we're dependent on the generosity of individuals, businesses, foundations. The city has actually come through with quite a bit of land for us, but we don't know how long that the access to that land is ever going to be. I mean, we try and do a really good job of representing the folks that help take care of us. But yeah, we need to go into land agreements with quite a bit of intentionality and make sure that it's going to be something that works for everybody that's involved. Takes a lot of time and effort and infrastructure to make a farm run, and it's a big gamble in a lot of cases.
And Ben M and Justin, I'm curious too about your thoughts on land use and similar question that I just asked Ben when it comes to farming in urban areas. If one of you, or both of you would like to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I feel like I mean I've even watched in the last 10 years of farming up on the Dry Creek um, area. Like most of the farmland that was there right down the road has now all been developed, and it's kind of crazy to me just in my life, small agricultural lifetime, to see actual beautiful land get turned into like houses. It's kind of wild.
Mm.
Where we're at, we have some of the most unique soil like in Ada County. So once that soil has been paved over or there's a house there, that kind of goes, that's kind of the end of that. So Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but then it's also hard to find those farmers to go farm that land. So it's a barrier for sure.
Yeah. So when it comes to, all three of you farming in a more urban area, you've mentioned neighbors, and so Ben B, I'll start with you. Are people surprised? I mean, what is their reaction, I guess, overall, when someone realizes there's literally a farm within urban, city limits? And because I would think a lot of folks would be quite surprised to know that we have these urban farms right within the city limits of these towns in the Treasure Valley.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes the surprise is on the side of like how dare they put a farm right next to me? And in many
Uh,
cases, actually, it's the neighbors that move into the farmland. But we also try to surprise people by kind of emphasizing the role that those farms play in a community as far as maintaining open space. And so I think a lot of people receive it very well. In particular, the properties that we farm on that belong to the city of Boise, I kind of almost think of them as almost like city parks. You might not walk your
mhm.
dog through the middle of it, but there's a lot of people that kind of walk past the farms, and it's nice to have just a little bit of greenery kind of in the middle of in the middle of town. So we try and leverage that as much as possible. It's like I said, it's open space almost just as much as the Boise foothills, but it's just right in town, and we try and make it so that folks can benefit from that. Whether it's schools down the street and welcoming students, classrooms onto our farm site. We 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 really see that as a value that we bring to the community, even though they might not be eating our food. But we try and make it something that's worth their while.
Hmm. And I'm curious, and maybe Ben M, you can answer this question. When it comes to farmland, are there limits on how you can actually use farmland in an urban environment?
Well, in our experience at Broken Spoke, we have certain limits. As far as irrigation, we're limited to um, the canal irrigation, which is just from April through October. And I think that can be a struggle for not necessarily just urban farmers, but that's, one of the things we're experiencing. Um, does that answer your question?
It does, and uh, Ben B, maybe we can talk a little bit more about when we look at the farmland in this urban environment, and as you mentioned, some neighbors being surprised that there is this farmland there. What about the educational part of it? I mean, as all three of you spoke about, you work with local restaurants, you go to the co-op, you're at the farmers markets. The farmer markets are always, teeming with people wanting to buy these products and this produce and these flowers. Um, is there a lack of understanding in a way as to the fact that you have to grow this product somewhere, and especially when you're dealing with things like restaurants and things like that, the closer the better in some ways.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, the small scale kind of vegetable, market garden farmers that are in the area, there's a lot of really good growers here cranking out a ton of produce, but the reality is
Hmm.
that we're not feeding this valley. But I think the role that we do play is we can be one of those kind of areas where we can emphasize the importance of kind of community kind of taking care of itself, and
Mm,
becoming at least a little bit self-reliant, so that we're not dependent entirely on produce from a different time zone or a different hemisphere. And so we and the reality is Boise is an agricultural community. I mean, it's got agricultural roots, and I think for a lot of people that live in Boise now, with as much growth as we've seen, that's lost on a lot of people. And so I think the more that we can kind of bring that agricultural legacy kind of back to the forefront, the
hmm.
better. I mean, it's not that there's a lot of part of the development of this area that, maybe isn't the feel good story that everybody wants, but we can be proud of the agriculture of our agricultural past, and I think it's important for people to think about that, and also just how some of their consuming habits can support or kind of work against the community itself. So we try and really celebrate the fact that this is homegrown stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and I like what you said about the fact maybe people not understanding the roots of the city of Boise. I mean, for example, I live about 2 miles from downtown, and I've got horses next door, right? I mean, because this land has been grandfathered in, and I love that. I mean, I love that I'm so close to the core of downtown, yet I live somewhere that has such roots in what Boise was, and so is it maybe that people in some ways need to have, again, Ben, just a better understanding, as you said, of really where this valley came from and how we've gotten to where we are now?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I feel like everyone has sort of like our grandparents, at least my grandparents were farmers, and it just kind of stirs up this appreciation of the past. And I don't know, I feel like those relationships too that you can forge at a farmer's market, and then you have like customers that come to you every week and you forge like a friendship almost, like it's a very meaningful and very unique sort of connection to your space, and it like makes the food feel a little bit better.
So my next question is for all of you, and I'm just going to go down the line. So Justin, let me begin with you. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you face every day as an urban farmer?
Well, I think I was just discussing with these guys before. One of the biggest issues we run into is having good people come and work. It's hard as on a seasonal operation to have people like leave the farm, in the wintertime and come back. And so much of farming is like a skill set from harvesting to tractor work that I think a lot of people maybe don't understand, and just the value of good agricultural workers, and just that's been a kind of a hard one for us. So. Yeah.
And Ben M, same question for you, the challenges that you face, and are they the same as what Justin just said?
Well, not the same for us. We're a very small farm where we grow on not even quite half an acre, and there's just 3 of us, and we run it collectively. So there's no employees. It's just owners.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't quite have that challenge. I think a lot of the challenges that I've experienced, I imagine, could just be maybe a smaller version of some of the other challenges that big farmers that could be rural have. One thing we're up against here in our first season is we've been able to grow a lot of food, but we have been trying to figure out how to sell it and find the outlets for that. And once again, that may not be a challenge specific to urban farmers, but knowing that we're surrounded by people who want local produce and trying to figure out how to get it to them, and whether that's just marketing ourselves better, being better business people rather than just good at growing food. Those are the challenges we're up against, and this is just our first season, so as we go forward, I'm sure we'll be figuring out how to solve some of these problems.
And Ben B, what about you? What are some of the challenges you face at Global Gardens?
I think one of the most relevant in the urban setting is that to operate on a scale that really becomes kind of meaningful and impactful in a community, as far as the volume of produce that we're cranking out, we need more land. And in order to get more land, the big pieces of land are gone. Close, like within the city, there's a couple really cool little opportunities that are still out there, but for the most part, you're scrapping for, like I said, a quarter acre, maybe an acre. And in order to get enough acreage, you got to take what you can find. And in a lot of cases, those are spread all over the place, and it's not very efficient as a farmer to go to one site, harvest some carrots, load it into your vehicle, bring it to another farm site, harvest some peppers, and then go to a wash pack facility and where you can store it. So, the challenge going forward in Boise is going to be whether or not we can kind of put together some infrastructure that can support kind of an expanded, like more infiltrated set of smaller farm operations, and 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 to make it as efficient as possible, because we're the farmers that we support are really up against a lot. They spent way more time driving from farm to farm than any of the farms that you'd find out in the outskirts, where you pull up to your farm and you're there all day long. Some of these farmers are moving around 5 times a day, which makes it really challenging especially with the price of gas. You're up against a lot of time and monetary inefficiencies.
So I never asked this question at the beginning of the conversation, and maybe I should have to all three of you. Do you all own your land? Do you rent the land? Justin, what's the situation in your case?
We have a long-term lease, so yeah, we don't own the land. We have, I think, 8 more years on our lease, which is nice. But yeah, I don't own my land. I wish.
Okay,
I wish I did. Yeah.
and then Ben M, what about you?
Yeah, we do not own the land that we farm on. We simply just asked the landowners if we could use their land to grow vegetables and flowers. And we have 2 different plots, and one of them is Dragonwing Nursery. We just sent an email to Dine Jones asking if we could, and she said we could. So we started there and got the number of another lady, and we're farming in her backyard right there off a hill road. And we have a really simple 3-year lease agreement with them. And yeah, it's pretty much as simple as that. And we'll take it 1 year at a time or 3 years at a time here.
Yeah. And then Ben B, what about you with Global Gardens, especially since you have land in multiple locations?
Yeah, all the land that we operate on is where the access to that land is donated. And I'll say, just kind of one of the examples that we're up against, though, is that we actually get offers of land quite regularly. But you have to be really discerning. We've had a few offers of land from people who told us straight up that really all they were looking for, they weren't looking to support farming. They just needed someone to work their land so that they could demonstrate green satellite imagery, so that they could maintain their water rights for when they developed it.
Oh.
And it was pretty obvious right off the bat that was not kind of a relationship that we wanted to be in, even though it was free land. We didn't feel good about that that exchange.
So how does not owning your own land, what does that do in regards to maybe the stress level of, could this land go away? And Ben B, I'll start with you. I mean, I'm just curious about that. That is there this feeling of, can we continue to do this if the landowner comes in and says, you know what, I want to develop this land?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to the importance of having good relationships with the folks that own the land. We really have, kind of essentially handshake agreements. And while that feels good, if you think on it too hard, it's not very confidence inspiring. But I might kick it over to Ben M here for a second too.
Yeah, so like Ben said, having, just keeping a good relationship with the people that you're working with and working near is important for us, just to feel invested in where we're at. But it's also difficult to think too long term. Like there's plenty of things that we would probably do if we did own the land to invest more in it. And, for example, building high tunnels or greenhouses, that's something that we are choosing not to do too much of, just knowing that it's possible we wouldn't be there in a few more years. And if we did own our land, I'm sure our mindset would be much different. We'd be making choices for decades in the future.
Yeah, it is.
So Justin,
It's-
how does that play into your investment in your property, even though you have an 8-year lease, but you don't own that land?
Yeah, it is. It's very tricky because we do have, I think, a little more infrastructure than most. Like we have a wash station and 3 high tunnel greenhouses that are cemented in the ground, kind of thing. So for me, I'm just trying to keep a really good relationship with my neighbors and my landlord, and they're luckily really awesome people that are
Mhm.
delighted to have an organic farm, basically in their backyard. But it is at the back of my mind. I think about, like, say in 8 years, they're like, all right, you're done. And the thought of
Mhm.
trying to deconstruct all of the stuff there would be a lot. So that's a big challenge, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to
So
do.
before I let you go, and Justin, maybe you can answer this question for us. How sustainable is urban farming, and how important is it, to our community? I mean, what should people be aware of about what all three of you do, and what it brings to our community?
Well, we have a CSA program, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and it's
Hmm.
a weekly share. We do a 22-week CSA, and people get a box of vegetables every week. This is our last week this week of it. So um, it's incredibly important. It kind of links the community straight to our farm, and it gives you what's in season throughout the whole season, which is cool. Um, I think people, it's great. Like directly connects us to the customer and in a really cool way. So
Well, I want to thank all three of you so much for coming on. I've learned quite a bit today, so I really appreciate your time talking about what you do and the importance of it. We've been talking with urban farmers, Justin Moore with Fiddler's Green Farm, Ben Mast with Broken Spoke Farm, and Ben Brock with Global Gardens as part of our series, Land and Legacy Farming in Idaho. And that'll do it for this episode of Idaho Matters. Thanks so much for listening. And just a reminder, you can find all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts.
Sources and methods, the crown jewels of the intelligence community. Shorthand for how do we know what's real? Who told us? If you have those answers, you're on the inside, and NPR wants to bring you there. From the Pentagon to the State Department to spy agencies, listen to understand what's really happening and what it means for you. Sources and Methods, the new national security podcast from NPR.